2 million Ghanaian youth are not in employment or education or training. So basically, they are sitting at home playing draft. 2 million Ghanaians are not in employment. They are not in education. They are not in training. They are sitting at home playing draft. Hey. 3 road projects on the Accra-Kumasi highway have been hampered. Not by IMF, not by debt exchange, not by strike action, but by Galamsey. They've brought the Galamsey fight to the Accra-Kumasi highway, and we are still pretending nothing is going on. The day they bring it to the seat of government, that's when we know that we have to wake up. Galamsey, Accra-Kumasi highway, three of the major interchanges on that road encumbered by miners with the brazen effrontery to cross a major highway and be mining in the daytime. And of course, MPs, deputy ministers, generating angst, ministers, I'm sure, a new legislative instrument. Talking about the gig economy, welcoming back for the first time after a long time, Godfred Akoto Boafo. I don't know why. Every time I think of the gig economy, I think about you.
Really?
I swear. Why? Because you always bring your. It's like the laptop is the defining feature of you. Yeah, so Godfred is always working.
Yes.
So he can be sitting on air. I don't think we feel this, but he'll be on air, then he's typing something. He can be in a meeting, in another meeting, with his laptop and the earpiece, having some editorial something. So you,
Charlie, the work is everywhere, but it's good to be back.
Welcome
you
back.
Look good.
Where did you go?
I've been everywhere. Where have I not been? But
You went to Trumpland?
I was in Trumpland.
Yeah, man.
A lot.
How is the political temperature there?
It's heated.
Oh, you could feel it.
Oh, yeah, you can certainly feel it.
Were you in the deep south? Were you in the
yes,
south?
I was in the proper south. I live in South Carolina, so
It was.
Yes.
You can feel it.
you can feel it. Took a couple of trips to Georgia.
Oh, you went to Georgia?
Went to Alabama
Hey,
as well.
these are deep south states.
Yes, these are proper deep.
And you can
South
feel the
states.
political.
Yes, it's a very divided country.
Do we need to send an African Union
Delegation to teach peace.
Yeah, that's right. To teach peace or urge calm or issue a statement.
I think they'll figure it out.
So you're in the deep south.
Yes, I was in the deep south.
Then this is education, work, family.
Yes, basically a lot of things put together, but primarily outside of what I do with you here, I also work in science communication.
Okay.
So primarily my job is to create a link between the general public and academic research by virtue of the work I do for the Conversation Africa. And so a lot of times we try to get academics to write for the general audience and not for academics. So you will feel very comfortable reading a 280-page paper written by somebody at the University of Ghana or something. The language might be normal for you, but for a 16-year-old or a 24-year-old or a 30-year-old regular person who is listening, the person doesn't have the time, doesn't have the skill set, but the person still can learn from those things. So that is the mission that I am currently on.
Academics recognize that journalistic writing is valuable.
It's valuable
for reaching the public.
The public, yes.
It's not a lower version of what they do.
No, not at all.
It's a different craft.
Certainly. And we also provide training for them because they also write on their own blogs.
You know why I like that? Because a lot of times when you meet academics, they feel like,
They know.
they are the people doing the right thing. Someone say, please, I want to come and train your people. It's like we have to train. I'm like, we also need to train you. True, but you also need to be trained because reaching the public is very important, and it's not how much you know, but how much you can transmit.
Yes.
So I like the idea of journalistic flair academic rigor.
Yes,
I like that.
And it's for Ghana, for instance, it was pretty difficult in the start, because our academics are pretty private. They don't like to be public facing, and they will tell you, well, once I've put it in a journal,
they can go and read it.
You can go and read it there.
Yeah.
So it's unlike places like Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, where
academics want
to be read. They want to engage with policymakers.
They want to be interviewed.
Yes, and they want their work to be heard by policymakers, that it can make a difference. In Kenya, for instance, very, very significant strides. In Nigeria, but slow strides here, but we've made progress. I think the University of Ghana, and for this, if you'd allow me, our own Professor Nanaba Anfo has been very, very
instrumental in
this. KNUST have
because
also
she's
been
a linguist.
Yes.
So she understands the power of language and communication.
Yes. Professor Peter Korte also had us visit Issa some time back to conduct training for some of his researchers as well. So we've been around.
So we've been doing those things.
We've been doing those, and then there's a bit of football as well. in the skirmishes, trying to sell one or two.
So you're welcome back. I also need to say that whilst we agree that academics need journalistic writing, we journalists also need some rigor.
Yes.
In our work, because it's a discipline.
Yes.
And I've always said that journalism is a discipline of verification.
Yes.
So what differentiates us from soothsayers or from whatever rabble-rousers is that we go through a deliberate process.
Yes.
So for example, we are coming to discuss an airline. He's getting the source material. He's speaking to the people concerned to try and understand the basis for the airline. So yes, you can express an emotional view on the matter, but that's not journalism. Journalism has a place for opinion, but it also has a place for rigor and fact. So I think it's a nice bridge that you occupy.
And also because for us, we speak to authority, like you're saying, because we also live in a media space where there are too many voices who speak on a lot of things that they are not skilled at. They have done very little work on, but speak to it. So what we seek to do is, if I'm talking about labor, I'm talking to a Dr. Chumesi Bafo, I'm talking to Professor Babuatin specifically for a certain kind of insight that only they can provide. So it's been an interesting journey. We are still on it. We're looking to do better for that. But like
welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm not going to ask you if you miss Ghana, because I know you did not. Because you always say that Ghana frustrates you.
He missed the bullfruit.
He only missed
the food,
the tunga wachi, and some one or two things, but he didn't miss the airwaves. He didn't miss Ghana politics. He didn't miss anything. He only missed tunga wachi.
Let me tell you something.
And then bullfruit.
That's all.
When I understand why people are leaving.
Tell me about it.
I met a lot of people when I was away.
Who had left here?
Who had left here. I met a class of students from Clemson University. These are masters and PhDs, a group of 25 or so. And we had conversations. And if you know your universities, Clemson is a very, 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 very good university. Prospects are really good for you if you can graduate properly from a school like that and have that on your CV. And in engaging them, most of them were asking themselves the big question: do I come back home? What am I coming to do?
These are Ghanaians.
These are all Ghanaians. What am I coming to do in Ghana?
Age between?
These are the oldest. I would say would be about 35.
So master students,
masters and PhD combos.
And they are asking if they should come back.
Yes, almost all of them. There wasn't one who, in fact, what we've done is we've created a society of, with that band that you spoke about, 1.9, somewhere in there as well. There's a band of professional students.
So their main work is studying in school.
People are just going to school
because they don't have work to do.
Yes. So I met somebody who started in Israel, then went to South Korea, and is now in school in the US. And all of them were school stops. So he started school in Israel.
Ghana to Israel.
Yes.
Israel to South Korea. And South Korea to US. And what is he learning?
He's learning. And it wasn't even that. Even when, and it's something that goes far back. Because when I was in China, for instance, like I had the president of the African Students Union, Monsieur Mukoya. He had done like 3 PhDs, and I kept asking Monsieur Mukoya, why?
From which country is it?
Rwanda at the time.
3 PhDs.
Yes. Monsieur. And when I left, Monsieur Mukoya moved to the University of Shanghai.
To do what?
To do another PhD.
And then they handle.
No,
If you look
because
for work,
It's a means of.
it's a means of,
no, but that cannot be right.
Oh no, people
but
do it.
people are doing that.
But is it that
you
he
have the
hasn't
funding for
found
it.
any work? Because you go back and teach
No,
in
because
University of Rwanda.
Because perhaps at the time, now conditions might be better, but at the time, when he considers what he might earn or those things, if he looks at his grant or his allowances, he might be able to figure a way around that.
3 PhDs?
Yes. He was everywhere.
Even one self, I'm not sure. Hey.
So it's a big conversation we must have. And
What is their problem? Why don't they see Ghana as a prospect? Is it that they've seen development, the roads are bigger, the food is nicer? Because US is not a place I want to live.
certainly,
I mean, when I listen to what's happening in that country, listen, the US has more guns than human beings.
yes,
Meanwhile, US has over 238 million people. In fact, they have almost 1 billion guns in circulation. And most of those guns are used on black and brown people. Why would I want to live there?
No, I don't think most of those guys like that.
No, not most. But the point is that there's a disproportionate number of people of
small
our
arms,
skin
yes.
color who bear the brunt of small arms and large arms, mid-sized arms. There's a disproportionate number of those people who are incarcerated. You get me? So I'm just saying, I don't see why I want to raise my kids in US.
yes, I understand
Do you
you.
understand? For a black man like me,
Yes.
with a big mouth.
Yeah, but there are quite a few
No.
who are also at a certain level of despair, in the sense that they feel that if they come back, they will not find places to apply their skill sets. The economy is significantly difficult for quite a few of them. Met a young lady with a master's degree. She moved with her husband recently, who's a student as well. She's a shift manager at McDonald's.
For a part-time job.
Yes, this is a master's holder in
A
land economy.
master's holder in land
In land
economy.
economy.
Shift
Left last
manager
year. Yes.
in a place where they sell.
She works at McDonald's.
Charlie. Why? Meanwhile, we are here. We look at Accra. Imagine if she's sitting.
What will you do in Accra?
That's the good question. If Luspa were working,
What will
and
you do?
if the councils were working, and land economies would be very useful for spatial planning,
Yes.
for valuation. And land economies would be very good because our urban society is a mess.
You see, and these young people want to have a certain kind of life. It's not that they want a lot, but they understand that life is supposed to be lived a certain way. And they do not feel that they can live that kind of life. Everybody makes concessions in their life. Okay, you are making concessions here to be able to
Everybody.
ignore certain things. Sky is making those concessions. Nathan is making it. Caleb is making it. I perhaps am making those. Abeku is making it. But you have increasingly a lot of young people who perhaps feel that those concessions might not be worth it. So it's something that a government or politicians or the political elite need to think about. That growing skilled class.
Godfred, the question that people ask me is, how come the foreigners are coming here in their droves? When you take a plane, you see Chinese people, you see Eastern Europeans, you see Lebanese, you see... And they see Africa as the destination. And Africans are also leaving the continent. So what am I missing here?
Because ask yourself, who are those coming? So if you look at who are those coming from the US, what do they come and do? We have a lot of tourists who are coming in. We've had quite a few who are also coming in to do business, who are looking to establish some kind of work here. But they come with a certain level of capital already saved. Some of them would have saved 15, 20 years. So if that person is entering this market with a startup of 300,000 or even $150,000, that person holds a significant advantage over, your regular Ghanaian. Okay, if you're looking at the people who are coming in from Asia, China, for instance, why don't you have Japanese here? Why do you have more Chinese here? Because the things that the Chinese do here, the Japanese don't do it. Their skill set is very different. You understand? And China exports its labor,
Charlie,
both skilled and
I
unskilled.
went on a road project site and I saw a Chinese guy wearing singlet.
It works.
Busy doing it.
They were
He holds the
so they
gun.
got they were singlet and Charlie wanted. I said, it's more than to me. And he was marking some road. I said, the guy wears singlet from China, they can't mark road for Accra.
Yeah.
Charlie, what be this?
Charlie.
Oh,
Yeah.
Charlie, no brushing teeth. Allah, it's no good. Charlie, so
Yeah, so I'm just saying, Ghana holds interest for different people in different ways. But the bigger problem for the political elite is, what does it hold for the people who were born here? You know, because everybody, if people get that opportunity, they would consider. It's not everybody will leave, but most people would think that, okay, I would fancy taking my chances out there.
let me push it a bit for you. Is the system difficult for these people just because of the politics or other things? Because I mean, you could come and work in private sector, or is it that even in private sector there are no opportunities? So, like, you are a land economist,
Yes.
you are in the US, you have a master's degree in land economy, and you don't see how coming to Ghana now can help you achieve your goals. So you would probably continue schooling and be working in a McDonald's whilst
Figuring it out.
whilst your land economy just disappears. Hopefully not, but probably does. I mean, is it just the government institutions, or is it just the fact that the country's economy is not growing? Or
Yes, it's an amalgamation of all those things. The economy not growing, people aren't able to make ends meet. Again, I'll tell you a story. I like the stories because I think it helps put things into perspective. So I met a former colleague of mine who moved to the US last year, April. And we had a conversation. He lives in Chicago. And it was a big name here, you know, in our business.
so what do they do now?
Don't worry. He has 3 jobs.
He has 3 jobs.
He has 3 jobs. He works security, he works factory, and then he works loading.
Loading boy.
So
Yeah, he
security.
works, with the mini carts, the loading dock.
Yes.
so he knows how to ride it.
Yes, the mini carts.
And so he does security,
He does security.
and then he does
He does the loading docks.
And then that's
he
what-
does a warehouse thing as well.
3 jobs in a day.
Yes, and this was a big name, you know. So we had that conversation, and he was like, "Look, Godfred, my partner called me and had seen a piece of land that I wanted to acquire
In Ghana
in Ghana, and it took me a month of saving
to just buy it.
to acquire the land for my partner.
1 month.
Yes, and he said, Godfred, in Ghana everybody knows who I am, but I would have struggled to purchase that land at the time that we wanted it if I were back home."
Wonderful.
You understand? So that is the thinking for some of the persons who are there. You might not understand.
No,
it,
I understand him.
but
I
in his
understand him.
life,
You know, I wanted to
he's
even say
able to
something.
provide.
What you said, so he's doing honest work and he can save in a month. He probably could be in Ghana and get that money through dishonest means. And he will feel like that's not the way to go about
Exactly.
it. So if he can do 3 jobs and save, I don't know how much he bought the land for, and buy that piece of land,
yeah,
well, it's good you found space to come back.
Yes.
That the trappings of
Of
the trappings of
Biden land.
yes did not. Of course, you know. It also depends on your social connections.
Yes, I have family.
You have social
everywhere.
connections, and you also have professional connections here. So sometimes it's easier for us,
Yes.
people like us, than for people who maybe you went to tech for your first degree and went to do a master's in the US.
Yeah.
You may not have enough social connections. So if you want to even come and get a job, it will be
hard.
difficult.
Yeah.
But people like us, we are lucky that we've worked so hard that it's easier for people to recognize
Right,
our
us.
talents.
Yes.
So we shouldn't necessarily begrudge. But what we should do, though, is to come up with a system where such people will eventually come back to Ghana. Because that land bought has to be developed.
Yeah.
And that land developed has to be developed into something useful. So whether it's going to develop a school or a playground or something, it will still put money back into the economy. And I think that one of the things we need to do as a country is to find a way of encouraging our diasporans to invest more in Ghana, because they work so hard. Now, for the past 2 or 3 years, private individual remittance from diasporans has been more than FDI. That is a powerful statistic. So this guy who's buying that land, this land economy person working at McDonald's, sending money for his sister in nursing school, when you put all that money together, it's more than what all these companies come and invest in a year. So our greatest investment is our people. And if we train our people well and they can do well abroad, why not? They should go. But they should have a route back. And the route back should not be just building a house to live in for yourself, but in addition to that, bringing your skill sets, having professional things to do. So we have doctors who come back, set up a medical thing. Some come and do medical outreach. Some come and teach. You know, I want to encourage those listening to us abroad that Ghana is the destination. So you need to come back. All right. And on that note, we welcome Godfred back to the City Breakfast Show.
Wisdom.
Welcome back.
What do I say? If you say wisdom, what do I say?
Wisdom young.
Eh?
Wisdom young.
Say so. You're saying the thing to you on those men.
Wisdom young.
Mezo. De.
So, by the way, wisdom means literally, you are the one who walked.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
you're welcome.
You are welcome. Yeah. So, and then Mesore Miao. I don't know the literal translation.
Like basically, like
I respond to the greeting. I've come.
In other words, I've come because of you.
I've come because of you.
Yeah, that's right.
Then to the Ghanaian public, Mesore Miao.
All right, there's a very interesting message here, which I thought was sort of wrapping up what you said. Bernard, I have a well-paying job here in Ghana, but I feel like relocating abroad to acquire more knowledge and work and make more money and return later in my mid-50s to build the country. As we speak, I have 2 admissions and a 5-year visa to return to school in the USA to do a master's en route to a PhD in financial accounting analysis. I already have 2 master's degrees, marketing and financial economics. The problem is our politicians and this administration. It's worse than the previous one. I regret voting for them. Last year, 2 of my colleagues who have worked for more than 15 years in Ghana left for UK to school and lived there afterwards till retirement before coming home. They already have their own houses in Ghana as we speak. Aloski, the system is messed up.
And also, just to answer a question you asked, this one says those who are coming from the US or Europe have something to fall back on. Ours is not like that. Whilst we may be ignoring volunteerism, they pay to come and do that service in our country. Why? The issues are different. It says, my wife came to Ghana to explore opportunities and she ended up setting up a school for kids with autism, one area that has been neglected. They raised their own money to support their children. She was doing well in the UAE, so quit that job and came to Ghana with her best friend to set that up. Unfortunately, we don't have that fallback system.
There's another long one here. Good morning, Bernard and team. Let's understand those living abroad or those leaving. I'm in my 40s. I've been working as an internal auditor in the public sector of Ghana for over 17 years. I've regretted not following my friends in 2005 in A Poly when they were pushing me to do DV lottery. Yes, I got a job after NSS, but because I practiced and promote integrity and professional ethics, victimization has been my achievement. I've earned names like Holier Than Thou, Difficult Person, Margaret Thatcher, Public Money Hatcher, etc. My colleagues pity me now whenever they visit. Sincerely, even my immediate family think I have an opportunity to live the family by compromising my principles because Ghana is not my father's property. I don't know how I have been able to stand the pressure plus that of the office to date. I'm emotionally down. My spirit gets sad anytime I dress up for work. Now I apply for DV lottery hoping to win. Not really because I love the US. I want to work and earn honorably with peace of mind to maintain relationship with my maker. If a chartered accountant plus UG MSc in accounting and finance is talking like this, welcome to Godfred anyway. That's from a listener.
Keep the faith. Keep the faith. There's coming a time when things will improve in this country, and when you can be proud of your contributions to our development. That time will soon come. So keep the faith.
Hopefully in 2005.
It comes when we can share the traffic with our MPs who want to leave us in
An
traffic.
important point before we go into that one quickly. Vera Haibo says that one of the significant issues affecting people really is the question of health care in this country. When that is sorted out, you will see many people in the diaspora coming back home to contribute their quota. Vera, thank you so much.
All right, Nathan.
Yeah, Ken from DC says the foreigners coming with capital or are coming with capital, something the average Ghanaian cannot raise locally. So they go and exchange their skills in other country to save up to live a decent life when they return. The foreigners from America and China come to Ghana to exploit and invest in the new frontier, We leave because we don't have the capital to start something. God willing, I'll leave soon.
God willing, pa.
Yakubu Ibinchamba says, the rhetorical question from Bernard struck the sweetest chord of my heart. Why would I want to live in a country where violence is the order of the day and pulling the trigger is fun? Ghana is the most beautifully blessed country in the whole of the world. Let us guard this beautiful nation called Ghana. The Western world is a myth and mystery. Well, that's Yakubu Ibinchamba.
All right, let's talk about the road issue. The Road Transport Committee is now dealing with this matter. They've called for public restraint. They are asking for the public to refrain from harsh criticism of MPs over the inclusion in this proposed amendment to Regulation LI 2180. Now, the amendment would allow MPs to use sirens and be exempt from speed limits during official duties. Alex Tete John Obua argues that these specific aspects of the amendment need reconsideration to maintain public safety. Here's the vice chairperson.
We enact laws and other things, but sometimes the public actually comes after the MPs that we transfer ourselves as a superhuman being, which is not so. So for me, we'll leave it for the House to decide, because it is both sides of the House. It's not only MPP or NDC. We have members of this particular committee who has actually decided to actually insert this clause into the bill. And Parliament as a whole will debate and see how best it can fit into this particular bill. If Parliament are totality reject, fine, for me, I will accept it. But let us not actually single out one particular arms of government and always pour our anger on this particular arms of government. That's my view.
So that was the vice chairman of the Roads and Transport Committee and MP for Sefi Akontombra, Alex Tete John Obua. Now let's hear the MP for Asante Akim North and Apia Kubi, who has defended the amendment to the road traffic regulations that would allow MPs. Now let's read the full law shortly, but the focus seems to be on MPs, but it's not just MPs, judges or some category of judges involved, ministers as well. He was speaking to journalists in Parliament yesterday.
Why? He's not my preference. Apia Kubi is saying that he is not my preference. But that doesn't mean that...
No, this is a wrong audio. We'll get the right audio for you. This has to do with the road. We're talking about Napo. So please get the right audio. So while you get that one, there's also the issue of quorum that we'll be discussing, but we'll correct this audio shortly. All right, so we have the audios. Forgive us for the first error.
So assuming we had members of parliament living in different parts of Accra, and the road situation is that bad that they cannot come to parliament to do the work that they are mandated to do constitutionally, and they use that time in traffic, what will be the quantum of work he will do when he gets here? Already he is tired. Again, one will argue that leave home early. So you leave home early at 4 o'clock, come and stay here at 5, and come and wait till 10 o'clock when Parliament will resume. And by that time, what amount of energy would you have to expend? And you finish here, and you still have to wait until 8 o'clock before you can go home. Look at the loss of time and loss of quality man hours. So if there is any justification in giving special access to any of the Article 71 office holders, then it presumes that all the members of Article 71 office holders ought to be given the same access, so that in the discharge of their duties, we can hold them and we can expect that the productivity will improve because they are not impeded on the road. And we have witnessed situations where some members of parliament and some even state ministers and even some judges have been arrested on the road because they are trying to meet their work schedule. And you go to the police, you go to the Attorney General, you go to the IGP. He says, I implement the law as given, and that I cannot help the situation because the law says that. So the remedy is to amend the law to make it lawful for people like that to be able to have special access where necessary. And indeed, when you are driving on the road in the early hours of the day or late hours of the day, you don't really need any siren or you don't really need any special access. It is when there is congestion on the road and there is also the need for you to meet deadlines by way of time, that need will arise. And when it does arise, it is for the purpose of doing your assigned duty for Mother Ghana. So I don't see why we have to impugn hatred, impugn jealousy, impugn mistrust into the provision. It is omnibus and it covers a lot of institutions. So attempts to single out one particular institution for rebuke is not fair.
Sky, it's not fair. Let me just box that together with the yesterday absenteeism. You know, this morning there was a report around the failure to pass a certain law or bill because of the quorum. This was also raised. So it was the same day. So this interview was done with Apiakubi yesterday on the sidelines of Parliament. But this is a conversation that ensued on the floor following the low numbers. I think the whole number was about 47. And when they went on break and came back, only 24 even came back. So if the 47 itself is below 50, and now you have 27, 24.
The minority group had earlier threatened to disrupt parliamentary business if the majority caucus failed to avail themselves in their numbers in the chamber for business to take place. Now, this was because the minority had over the period complained about the absenteeism of the majority group. During proceedings in Parliament on Monday, the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, raised concerns about the lack of the required numbers for business to take place in the House, which compelled the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, to adjourn the House after the quorum procedure was followed.
Civil society organizations who embark upon the demonstration, who have confidence in us, are expecting us to do a very good work. But Mr. Speaker, we are saying that it will not be nice for the lithium and the bauxite agreements, the Speaker, to come through Parliament with lightning speed.
Did it come before the Business Committee?
Very honest, he who seeks equity must come with clean hands. If it is the case, Speaker, if it is the case that is the argument, all the papers that were laid last week did not come before the business statements. That is the statement of fact. Now, we are masters of our own rules. And oftentimes when it becomes necessary, Speaker, for us to amend, be it business questions, that is why even today, typical example today, questions that we have programmed, it has become necessary that we reprogram the questions. So we are not taking the questions. That is why we say that we are masters of our own rules.
Speaker, I'm standing on Order 64 to raise a quorum for the transaction of business this morning. Mr. Speaker, they bring business to this House and they come consistently relying on our numbers to have business of government executed. For me, it demonstrates lack of seriousness, and I don't think that we need to be giving them this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, last week and last 2 weeks, I raised this issue. They are in our constituencies campaigning, yet they expect us to execute their business for them. It is completely unacceptable.
As we are at your discretion, but the minister should be at least allowed to lay the paper, and then, Speaker, out of your wisdom, you can do the appropriate referral. Then we can take it from there. So you raise the quorum just to stop us from laying the paper. This is most unfair.
Head count 24. The House stands adjourned.
The Member of Parliament for Asante Achim North, Andy Apiakubi, had an interaction with...
So that was Neil Ayikwe Okai's report. They could not raise the numbers. It's almost like two things happening on the same day. On the day you're asking that we should allow you to drive without speed limits, only 24 of you show up in Parliament to even do parliamentary business out of 275. Hey, serious? Yes. The law-making body couldn't even find 50 people.
Yeah, they are busy.
Hey. Let's deal with the road,
the
first one, Sky. So where is this LI coming from? Who's the proponent, and was it something that was changed? Because there's a narrative that it was initially supposed to, the exemption for use of siren was for some set of people, and then it was increased.
Okay.
How does an LI work, and how did we even get here?
So, LIs come within the scope of Article 11 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
So they are part of the laws of Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
So when we pass a parent law, which is to say that we want a law that governs how we drive on the roads in Ghana, there is almost always the need to give effect to that law by bringing about regulations that help to implement the law.
Okay.
So in the case of the Road Traffic Act that we have in Ghana, we passed regulations, which is the road traffic regulations, basically to beef up the law and add specific details, including areas where we are granting specific exemptions allowed under the Parent Act. So the existing regulations, which is regulation, LI 2180, provide for specific people who can be granted exemptions under the speeding requirements on our roads.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you look at the regulations under Regulation 74, 3, there are specific vehicles, including that used by the head of state, who is the President of the Republic, the one used by the Deputy President or the Vice President of the Republic is also covered. The police are also exempted from the speed limits, and then also vehicles that are used by the fire service. Then also there are further exemptions. So, for instance, motor vehicle used as an ambulance by a hospital or clinic, or a motor vehicle used by other recognized government security agencies. So, for instance, if you have SFO or the serious is it SFO? Are they still SFO? No,
don't worry, we know what you're saying.
Yoko.
We know what you're saying.
Special Prosecutor's Office and all of that, they come under the scope of that particular legislation. And then a bullion vehicle registered by the licensing authority.
So this is all the status quo up until this new one.
But you realize that sometime in the life of this station, we launched a project which was aimed at bringing sanity onto the roads. So we wanted to prevent the gross indiscipline, or at least reduce the gross indiscipline.
War against indiscipline.
Yeah, we see in our streets. So we launched the War Against Indiscipline campaign with Samens the Arrowhead, supported by people like us, you yourself, and my good friend Caleb Kuda, who was our eye on the roads. And
that when they post that menu.
So on the road, we discovered that members of parliament were being arrested, ministers in some cases being picked up, people within the judiciary, all of these spaces, and ordinary drivers, and all kinds of people, chief executives were being arrested for either using the shoulders of the road, speeding, or creating other forms of nuisance on the road. And you realize that a member of parliament at some point publicly attacked us, the station, and what we were doing, because he said that he was going to parliament.
Film me. Film me where?
The national interest.
I am going in the national interest. I didn't win in here. Film me where? Caleb, we are a young man. I didn't win in here, fine. Film me.
So eventually, of course, they were put before court, those who had to face the courts, and sanctions applied accordingly. Now, that provoked a lot of MPs, and it also provoked a lot of people in government. Mind you, much earlier, sometime in 2021, the Jubilee House had cause, following these developments, to issue a notice to all ministers and appointees of government. And let me read the story published by the Pulse newspaper, just to give you a quick history of how this thing came to be. So the story was published on the 25th of May 2021, And it says Jubilee House has issued a letter reminding ministers, or some ministers, members of parliament, and chief executives of government institutions of the ban on using sirens and bells to evade traffic. Now, the letter indicated that per Regulation 74.3 of LI 2180, the specified vehicles that a siren or bell may be fitted as a warning appliance include government vehicle used for official purposes by the head of state, a police vehicle, and a motor vehicle used by the fire service. Now, somewhere at the end of that particular story, they say that for the avoidance of doubt, the said ban on the use of sirens covers the following government appointees: ministers and deputy ministers, regional ministers and deputy regional ministers, metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives, CEOs of government agencies, and officials of the presidency, unless otherwise designated. The letter states.
Because the law did not allow for these categories to use it,
it.
but they were tending to use it. So Jubilee House issued a statement saying, if you are not part of the group that is in the LI, don't
use it.
So now they want to do something.
Yeah, and then quickly, you realize that the government, the letter from the presidency restricted itself to members of the executive because he can only address members of the executive. You know, he can't be giving directives to MPs.
Okay.
So there came a discussion on the need to review the existing legislation.
LI.
2180. And there is a process in Parliament which has come about as a result of some form of convention, which says that when a subsidiary legislation or some other legislation which is likely to cause a shift in how things are done is to be laid before Parliament, particularly subsidiary legislation. Because the Supreme Court has said that MPs do not have any capacity to amend a subsidiary legislation or an LI brought to the House by a sponsoring institution, there should be a process of pre-laying. In other words, the institution sponsoring the legislation or the subsidiary legislation will come to the House, not the plenary itself, but to a relevant committee. They will sit, review the legislation.
That's what they call pre-laying.
Pre-laying. So they will make amendments.
So that's where the alarm blows.
Make all of those changes. And
before
then
it comes to the House for official laying.
Exactly. Because the moment it is laid,
you cannot
under Article 11, you cannot amend even comma.
So the pre-laying gives us a chance to deal with mischief before it gets to the plenary.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
So what has happened is that through that process, my understanding, and if the sources are to be believed, is that in the course of reviewing the said piece of proposal, a number of changes have been made and additions made to fortify.
But what was the intention of the original LI? Because the LI is already there. There's nothing wrong with the LI.
Okay, so the complaint was that judges were being arrested by the Dampare-led administration trying to enforce discipline on our roads. Ministers were being arrested. In some cases, as I said earlier, made to face the courts, or maybe their drivers are being hauled before the courts to face sanctions. Members of parliament were being arrested. Deputy ministers were being arrested. And the argument was that these are people who are working in the interest of the Republic. These are people whose services are needed in order to get the Republic going. And therefore, where in appropriate cases they are rushing to get to work, or they have had to deploy the sirens on their vehicles in order to get to an official ceremony or to perform an official duty, there should be no reason to arrest them on the road and put them before court, because that undermines the quality of service.
This Regulation 74 of the LI, prior to amendment, said that a motor vehicle officially used for official purposes. So it's not even just a motor vehicle occupied by. So if the original LI said these people were exempt from or could use these sirens. So there are two issues. There's the use of sirens or bells, which is Regulation 74, and then there's the issue of speed limits, which is Regulation 166. Good. So the people who could fit sirens to their vehicles officially, the head of state, the vice president, We agree. The Speaker of Parliament, and then the Chief Justice. Now, it appears to me that they've added ministers of state.
So what they have done now,
Justice of the Supreme Court,
yes,
and members of Parliament.
Yes.
So those three categories.
Ministers have also been added.
Yes. So the original law is the head of state, the vice president, the Speaker of Parliament, and the Chief Justice. These are official heads of the arms of government. So that was I, Roman, I, and IV. But now we have ministers of state who have been added to the category that can now put a warning appliance on their vehicle. We have justices of the Supreme Court
and members of parliament.
Members of parliament. Now, that's all under category A. Then, based on this proposed amendment, of course, a police vehicle, there's no problem there. That one, they can already do it. A motor vehicle used by the Ghana National Fire Service, no issue there. A motor vehicle used by the National Ambulance Service, no problem. A motor vehicle used by an ambulance, used as an ambulance by a hospital or clinic, we don't have any problem with that. A motor vehicle used by other recognized government security agencies, no issue there. A bullion vehicle registered by licensing authority, no issue there. So the problem is the addition of ministers of state, justices of the Supreme Court, and members of parliament. Now let's go to 166, the issue of speed limit. Because again, once you amend 74, you have to also amend 166.
We call it consequential amendment.
Because if you fit that device on the vehicle, it means the speed limit does not apply.
You're overriding it.
Good. So they also then decided that they would amend regulation 166. Now, the principal enactment is amended by the substitution for regulation 166 of quote exemption for speed limit. The speed limits on a motor vehicle specified in these regulations does not apply to. Then they come to A motor vehicle when the motor vehicle is being used in the performance of official function. So even the original law is not even. So if the president is sitting in your car, he may not do that thing.
Okay, so let me explain the reason. The reason is that when the president is seated and is being conveyed from one place to the other, you would have dispatch riders ahead of him. You understand? Those people sweep the road to ensure that the road is clear. There are no impediments. So the likelihood of hitting bystanders or people using the road and all of that is diminished considerably. But what we are seeking to introduce now basically allows a member of parliament,
a minister of
state,
a justice
of the Supreme Court to install, these devices on the road, put them on whether or not they are going to see their girlfriend or they are going to do official business, and then they write.
No, hold on. The law is saying that. The preamble talks about when it is used for an official function.
Yeah, but I'm saying that as we speak, they are abusing the current.
Because you see, the four categories of people who are given the original right, you can know if they are doing an official function: the head of state, the vice president, the speaker, and the chief justice. They are heads of arms of government, so you can understand their capacity. Now you add a Supreme Court judge, a minister of state, and a member of parliament. What's an official function? It's going to a funeral over the weekend.
An official
function. Is that what we're saying? Now the question I have for the public is, why are you angry about this? Send me a voice note. And it seems as if the MPs one is annoying them more than even the ministers and the Supreme Court justices.
No, I'm vexed by all three of them.
I'm asking the public to tell me what they send me a voice note. Why does this annoy you? And why is this a problem? So prior to this amendment, it was the head of state, the vice president, the speaker, and the CJ who had this right to put these sirens or bells on their cars and essentially to drive when they are driving their vehicles officially without speed limit. Now we are amending this law to add ministers of state, Supreme Court judges, and members of parliament. The others who are already there, ambulance service, fire service, police, we already know these guys. So there's no issue there. Why are Ghanaians annoyed? I've received so many comments, even on my personal phone, suggesting that this topic is quite an emotive one. So let me take your take before I read some comments. Yes.
If I got Sky right, this is a pre-laying. So we are now.
It has now been late.
It has been late.
Oh, it's been late.
So we are now entering the realm of debate.
Yeah, so what it is now, okay, so let me just explain. So under Article 11, once it's been laid by Parliament, by the minister, the relevant minister before the House, it takes 21 sitting days for it to mature into a lawful act. In other words, it becomes enforceable after traveling 21 sitting days in Parliament.
Okay.
Unless you have 2/3 of MPs voting to annul the process entirely.
Okay.
So if MPs vote, 2/3 of them vote to reject that piece of legislation, it doesn't become law. But if we allow it without raising issues and MPs watch it, sit for 21 days, it becomes law. It becomes enforceable.
Thank you very much for the clarification. So the responsibility now is with the MPs.
Yes.
Of whom 25 showed up the last time Parliament met.
Yes.
Apparently 47.
47.
But only 25 came back from break time.
Okay. So less than 50.
It was 47, and when they did the break, 24 came.
Less than 50
the rest were
MPs.
still in break.
Less than 50 MPs showed up for work.
Yes.
Based on the fact that most of them were doing different things.
They were caught up in traffic.
Yes.
So they need the law to allow them to come
To
quickly,
come
because grand traffic is hard.
Bernard.
But that's the logical deduction.
Let me.
Traffic is hard, and then Adam Price arresting them, so they have to come to work.
You know.
Wow.
And
When I see how the messages are just...
Let me just do this quickly for you, Bernard. In listening to the vice chair and then Honorable Apia Kubi, they do not clearly justify why this should be done, other than their discomfort.
Do you listen to them carefully?
I listened carefully.
Do you know boost productivity? Do you understand what it means to boost?
Okay.
To boost.
The second one I have, and the bigger problem is the source of this LI, which is the Ministry of Transport. And I want to ask what kind of work would have been done to inform such an amendment, because
it's called consultation.
No, but
they consulted the Chief Justice to talk about her justices of the Supreme Court. They consulted the Chief of Staff to consult regarding her ministers, and they consulted the Speaker for his MPs.
Then they should put
so ministers will get, MPs will get, Justice of the Supreme Court will get.
It will be interesting, Bernard, Sky, and Nathan, to read the memorandum that was attached to this by the ministry, because I dare say it's a hard argument to make. You see, the reason why I say this is they would have to provide data, for instance, on how this affects, on how the absence of these things is affecting parliamentary productivity. How do they measure it?
The traffic is thick.
No, but how do they measure it?
So that's why they come late.
No, but
they can't get to work early.
How do you isolate parliamentary productivity from the productivity of the general populace?
Because their laws are of greater consequence.
Says who?
The work they do is a bigger work than your work.
No, but that evaluation is not up to the ministry to make.
They did consultation.
That is why I'm saying that it will be very interesting. I get what you're doing.
Am I lying?
I get
In
you.
Ghana, that's how we do. They do consultation. The consultation means that they will go and see the speaker and say, Charlie, your MPs have been complaining, but we can't only do for you, so let's do for the justices too. So Supreme Court judge, because when you go to Article 71, MP, Supreme Court judge, minister, so let's make it so that there will be no noise.
But because in my estimation, the problem that they are looking to solve, Parliament does not have what they have an absenteeism problem. They don't have a tardiness problem.
Can you repeat that?
They have an absenteeism problem.
Not a lateness to work
problem. Not a lateness to work problem.
What about the MP who was rushing and went to crash somebody?
Why was he late?
His daughter was not well. So he went to check her on the hospital. When he was coming back, he crashed into some car.
Yeah, so don't rush back.
So when he has the siren, it will alert people not to cross him. No. So that, in fact, I'm sure you said, if that MP had that siren, and can all ban, everybody would have cleared the road. So that near-death incident was because of lack of siren.
It was Bernard.
I'm thinking for them now, because they are not telling me what to say. I'm just thinking.
Because Bernard, you see, if you look at the data, Odikro, everybody who monitors...
It's an absenteeism problem.
Everybody will tell you that parliamentarians generally... In fact, we could play a sequence of audios from the Speaker of Parliament, his deputies, who has complained about absenteeism.
Okay, let me help them. What about the fact that last 3 weeks...
MPs don't like going to work.
Last 3 weeks, I went to a wedding on Saturday. let me try and play the devil's advocate. I went to a wedding of a colleague,
Okay.
and there was an MP sitting there, who was sat next to me, and I asked the MP, how far? He said this is his third event, and that he has another event to attend before he goes home.
Yes.
And this was around 2 p.m. So he had gone to some funeral in the morning. He had passed through another event, and then he had come for this wedding, and he was going to pass through another one before he get home. He did tire. So by the time, and sometimes they have to do this on Monday and Tuesday. So by the time he finishes those rounds to get to Parliament, it's hot. So he needs siren.
My father was an MP for 12 years, a minister for 8 years.
What year to what year?
He was never late for work. Richard Sky knows my father very well.
What year was
you
this?
hold on.
Because
I don't need the years.
Traffic in Accra.
I don't need the years, Bernard.
I'm thinking for the MPs.
Bernard, you stop thinking and let me finish what the point I'm
Was
trying
there
to
traffic
make.
in Accra?
Bernard, let me finish
Do you know the
point
traffic that happened at Kaswa the last time that the rain
Bernard,
fell?
let me finish the point I'm trying to make. I beg you. You see, he was an MP for 12 years. If you got to Parliament at 8:30 in the morning, you would meet my father there. The portfolio he carried was a very sensitive one. Up until his last week, that was the first time I saw the rider
even come
home with him, because he had to pick up a document and go back. In 8 years,
only once.
Once.
They don't make them like that again.
If you ask anybody who works in Parliament, and I say it with pride,
the work
that he did as a legislator, the MPs, you can judge him for that one.
Drafting.
But for legislative work,
my lord,
I don't think you can name 5 parliamentarians who were better than my dad.
He didn't use a dispatch.
What did he use the dispatch rider for? He was always on time.
He didn't need siren.
He didn't need it for anything.
Not even as a deputy minister.
Was there traffic at your area?
Bernard, I'm just saying, he was a very busy man.
Let's listen to the reason why. There's another reason. There's an MP. The MP.
I want to wrap up.
No, the MP's argument is strong. I want you to listen to the MP.
This is our nation, and the nation's interest is paramount. Let me record everything. I am prepared to defend it everywhere, because the nation's interest is paramount. So sometimes you should give us concessions to go and do the national assignment. I have always followed the queue. But for today, I have to be in Parliament by 8 o'clock.
Some people say the concessions we give you all the time has been abused over.
No, but because and that is why I am showing you my card and saying that give me the concession. I am the right person.
No, because the argument is that you MPs and big men have been abusing this concession.
What do you mean by abuse? What do you mean by abuse? What do you mean by abuse?
Please don't be doing that. Please come.
What do you mean by abuse?
That's the notion out there.
What is the notion? What is the abuse?
Please.
What have I abused? I am saying that I have an urgent thing to do in the national interest.
It looks like everybody has an urgent thing to do in national interest.
Who has it again?
All the other drivers.
All the other drivers, higher than a parliamentarian. Well, can you say this in the Congress of US? There. Parliamentarians are supposed to be in the house by 8 o'clock. You are the same people who come. He is not even going anywhere. To every rule there is an exception. Give me your details. I can go to the IGP and I will drive you there. This is a national interest. I'm not for myself. And if you like, by 8 o'clock, go there and ask whether I'm not there. Fill me well. Because I'm serving the national interest. And to every rule, look at the national interest.
Yajo, and some what is saying. Now, some of them is saying to America. I can join. I say, Ja, if you are since they be on Sinyamia, they are nothing. And
the listening sense.
And that is why he's no longer a member of Parliament. He lost.
But there are many who think like him.
Yes. You see, the point I'm trying to make, Bernard, is this. This amendment, my interest lies in understanding the rationale behind it. Ministers, are the justices of the Supreme Court late for court?
The workload is high.
So they need to go from court to court. Don't they sit in one venue? It's High Street, is it not?
It is.
The ministers of state. What else? They are MPs as well. So most of them are. So that mix, I don't really understand.
People invite them to a lot of programs.
And it's an unusual... No, Bernard, it's...
And because they are busy, they come late, and it affects all of us, our productivity. So when they come early, we'll start early.
No, but Bernard, you see, the thing is this. I see a missed opportunity to highlight how congestion, poor roads, and poor public transport is impacting the populace, generally. And I'm hoping, because the debate has not started, that when our MPs return, some of them in raising their voices against this very, 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 very poor piece of legislation will let us understand that they represent us. You know, in wrapping up, an interesting piece of thing that I picked up. James Madison, 4th President of the United States, he was writing in something called the Federalist Papers in the 1700s somewhere. And he says something about representation. He says that the effect of representative democracy is to refine and enlarge the public view by passing them through the medium of a chosen body of citizens whose wisdom may best discern the true interest of their country.
Can you repeat that?
He says that the effect of a representative democracy,
like ours,
is to refine and enlarge the public views by passing them through the medium of a chosen body of citizens whose wisdom may best discern the true interest of their country.
When did he say this? Long ago?
1710. It's 1787.
Wow.
So, the 275 MPs, wherever it is they may be, they should ask themselves, MP for Ablekuma West, Esla, do you think that this is the true interest of the people of Ablekuma West? Your MP, what's his name or her name?
He's called Ramadan.
What's your MP's name?
Landlady.
The MP is called Landlady. What is your MP's name? Nathan.
Ajasafo.
Sky, what is your MP's name?
The Honorable Jifa Abdullah Gomashi Mamaga.
All of them. Wherever it is
Bernard, why are you looking at this guy?
Yeah, the film.
Wherever they may be today, Bernard, they should think about this. This is why we sent them there. Represent your people. Our views.
By the way, you know that in this room, it's 3-2 against NDC. Because your MP is MPP.
How is this?
Your MP is MPP. Your MP is MPP. It's only me and Sky who MP is NDC.
You should think about it, Bernard. I am done. I will leave them with James Madison.
What about the Supreme Court judges?
Bernard, Bernard, I'm saying ministers, justice of the Supreme Court, MPs, none of them. You see, because that's why I said I want to see the memorandum, that what we would call the travaux préparatoire, that is attached to this.
The what?
The travaux préparatoire.
Thank you.
You know?
You want travaux
préparatoire?
My God.
Yeah.
So usually, Sky, are there justifications for this before? Is that what you mean?
So that's what you're saying.
So they will make a case.
So the Constitution makes it clear that if there is an existing legislation and you want to amend, repeal, or fortify the same, you need to provide a memorandum attached to the bill that is coming.
I want to read it.
So you want the travaux
préparatoire. And Bernard, you see,
it tells you basically the wisdom, the legislative wisdom, or the policy wisdom that is guiding the proposal to either.
Somebody said I should tell you that in your father's time there were not a lot of V8s. That's why they didn't need those things. But now the V8s are plenty.
Who does the V8s belong to? The point I want to make is this, Bernard. You know Nigerian politics well. It's a much larger operation than
the
we
state
do.
governors are even very powerful.
You know, in the whole of Nigeria, this thing that we are trying to do, hand it over to 275. If you look at the size of the Nigerian government, only 79 persons in Nigeria, 79.
The whole of Nigeria?
The whole of Nigeria are allowed this.
200 million people.
Only 79. If you go to Kenya, Section 119, Traffic Act, police, ambulance, fire engine, president, vice, finished.
The whole of Kenya. So even a Kenyan speaker.
Finished.
Are you serious?
I just read it to you.
Wow.
If you go to South Africa, same. I'm picking democracies that are near ours. Unless you want me to...
Is their traffic as bad as ours?
Have you been in Joburg at 8 a.m. before? From Joburg to Pretoria.
What about Nairobi?
From Babajogo in Gong Road, something will happen to you. Mombasa Highway.
Do they use V8?
They use everything we use.
Sky, 2 issues here. Why are people more upset about the MP's own than the ministers?
No, I think people are just generally upset. I don't think it's just the MPs.
I think it's the MP's own.
But because they are us. You see, and that's why I gave you the James Madison quote. The MP is me.
Represent us.
So if I am late to work because I have to sit in a trotro, and my MP thinks that the best way to represent me, rather than speaking up for my concerns,
is it that
is to dodge traffic?
Can you
Why would I be upset?
Can you be in Parliament and lose touch with reality? Because I thought MPs were in touch. In fact, one of the arguments people make for voting for DCs is that MPs they are the people we choose, so they represent us. They are in touch. So I'm a bit surprised that MPs can agree to sign something like this at a time when the mood of the nation. I mean, you see my point. It's almost like, what's going on? Are they forgetting? Because MPs are supposed to be with us. They are our last hope.
Yeah.
Do you get it? Because they are the people who come every week to us. We meet them at funerals and things. So is it that? I don't get it.
You see, Bernard, there is a failure of leadership, and that failure is the warped logic that leads to proposals like this, which clearly seek to create a legal system reserved for a privileged few and another reserved for the rest of us. I had pointed out to you much earlier that one of the cardinal principles in our Constitution is the principle of equality before the law, which says that all of us in the country are subject to the same set of laws in force. But as is constitutional and globally respected, the framers of that principle also agreed that in appropriate cases there should be exceptions. But those exceptions are also muted by what is reasonable. So it is not a blanket license that, because this constitutional principle allows for exemptions or exceptions, let us keep using the exceptions to regularize misbehavior. I had earlier given you the history behind how this legislation came into force. And it would seem that MPs and ministers, and to a large extent justices of the superior courts or the Supreme Court, have found a way to want to avoid the actions of the police that lead them before courts to face actions in the courts. That's basically what it is. They want to outsmart the current police administration. They
seem to be firm in applying the law.
Exactly. So that once it is put in law,
they cannot do anything.
Exactly. They can do whatever they like on the road. Because, Bernard...
So even you who has worked in Parliament, you don't see the justification for this?
I don't see the justification for
it. At all.
There's absolutely no justification
MPs feel that they are usually vilified when we discuss Article 71. Everything that we discuss Article 71, it applies to them, ministers and judges. We always, generally, the media picks on them. They feel unfairly targeted.
Bernard, so here's the context. When I was in the UK, I was doing my bar course at City University, London. There will be times I will sit on the train, many times, to go to central London. Back and forth. And you see, when you are sitting on the tube, you see justices of the Supreme Court of the UK, High Court justices.
On the same train?
Court of Appeal justices. They are sitting on the same train.
They don't have police escort?
No.
Reading their morning paper.
Yeah, reading their morning paper or doing some work on their laptop or whatever they are doing, or having their coffee or their tea, as the case may be. You see members of Parliament
on the same
of
train,
the House of Commons or House of Lords. They are on the same train with you, heading either into central London or going out of central London.
I recall a morning where I met Boris Johnson in New York.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And he was prime minister at the time.
Yeah. Walking on alone.
He was walking.
You have ministers of the UK sitting on the train. You have mayors inside sitting there. You see them, you meet them. If you want to sit with them as and when their schedule allows it, you can sit with them and interact with them. They have not created themselves a cocoon that allows them to shield themselves away from the exigencies or the problems facing the people. That is why, Bernard, when a particular train, for instance, the Midland trains are not working, or there's some delay, which affects the movement of people from, say, Milton Keynes and beyond into Euston, they know
everybody is.
Yeah, everybody's agitated. And when he comes to Parliament, you can be sure
it will be mentioned
that Prime Minister's time, when they are asking questions,
PMQs,
he will raise that matter and speak vociferously about
because they feel what the people feel.
Exactly. When he goes into the shops to buy bread, if the price of bread moves up by a p, he knows it because he goes into the shops, he buys, and he feels the pain of the people. If the power sector is affected by delay of natural gas from Russia or whichever place they get natural gas from, and it affects him, the heating capacity of his home is affected, he knows it because he's not provided some other way of getting electricity beyond or outside what the regular people of the UK get.
So there's no stretch of the imagination where you see this is justified.
Exactly. And above all, when Boris Johnson got sick, struck down by COVID-19, he was not flown out of the country to, say, New York to receive care. He was treated within the UK. And when they become sick, they go there and receive care from there. So it is not like there is some special treatment.
Are you sure you're not motivated by jealousy?
No, I'm not jealous. Oh, why would I be jealous?
Because somebody said in the voice that we are jealous of MPs.
No, I'm not jealous, Bernard. With the greatest respect.
No, I know.
Ah, okay.
I know. I'm just saying it to check. Okay. So Sky.
Yes.
I understand. How can we arrest this thing? Seriously, how can we stop it?
Okay, so Bernard, as I said, under Article 11 of the Constitution, this piece of proposed legislation having been laid, subsidiary legislation having been laid, counting from the date it was laid, right, you require 21 sitting days. So at every day that Parliament sits is 1 day. If they sit on a weekend, that will be counted.
Okay.
But if they do not
21
sitting days, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes law.
Good.
Now, the only way it can be killed is where 2/3 majority of MPs vote, 2/3 of MPs, right? So out of the 275, 2/3 of them, that would be what? Do the math for me.
2/3 of 275.
Yes.
So half of 275 is essentially
138.
137. So you had another half of that. So about 170.
So you have to add it to the earlier one.
Yes. So I think it's about 170 or 180 MPs.
180. Okay. So you need that number of MPs voting to throw it away.
All right.
If they do not vote to throw it away, it becomes law and therefore enforceable. So our only hope presently is to hope against hope that the people who have the power to obliterate this obnoxious piece of legislation see public wisdom.
There's actually 116.
116. No.
No.
116.
No, 2/3.
2/3, yes.
2/3.
Okay.
About 180.
About 180, yes.
So you need that number. If you have 2 MPs less or 1 MP less, the legislation will come into force. So that is the only way to kill it. And therefore, you have to go into the home of your member of parliament early in the morning, at dawn, and speak some wisdom to him.
We know how they vote. Because we can't win. If the MPs decide that they'll use a voice vote, they will say, amendment,
as many
LI 2180. As many as are supporting the amendment say aye. As many as are against say no. The ayes have it. Then when you go to your MP, you say, did you vote? So I was the part of the room.
No, you see, this particular provision is a special category.
So how do they have to vote?
So it's sui generis, the lawyers will say.
So how do they vote?
So they have to determine the exact number. In that case, if there is a proposal to a motion to eliminate it, then there will be a counting of the numbers to be sure that.
But this is the reason I say this is in some countries we know how people vote based on the public. I mean, their method of voting. You know that Caleb voted for, Godfred voted against. But in this country,
we don't.
We just have the number. Let's listen to some voice notes. Some people are not happy at all. Ghanaians are upset.
Bernard, this law simplicity is seeking to take the MPs out of the realities that we face. And if you do that to your leaders, what kind of development are you going to get? If they are always going to go there and not feel what we go through, what sort of transport policy would they promulgate? And any bogus policy that comes before their table, they'll be happy to sign it. They will not even think through because they're not part of the problem. They only get out and realize that, we could have solved it this way. But as soon as we vote for people, then we take them out of our reality and yet want them to solve it. Look at the cars they ride and everything they go through. Because of VA, they don't even feel the potholes. And we give them accommodation and what have you. And yet you want them to feel what we feel on a daily basis. It will only further aggravate the situation and to give you more headache. Because you come and sit on air and lament. And speak and speak and speak and the problem never gets solved. Thank you. Akwa Moses here.
Hello, Bernard and team. Good morning. On the use of the siren by the MPs and with the new changes that they want to make in the law, the annoying part is our MPs. How can MPs that we voted for into Parliament to make laws that would make life better for citizens on the road, and they are rather trying to make amend to an ally that will give them that advantage on the streets. Just imagine, should an MP leave office having about 4 cars and they are having those sirens and those things on their car. Imagine within a space of 4 years or 8 years, imagine how our roads are going to be. How we will vote against any MP who is supporting this. We will vote against them. Any MP, either NDC or MPP, we will vote against them. We will come to the chamber again and put a crusade as it happened last time. Drop this chamber.
Good morning. My name is Kojo. I'm from the OEB. Please, my issue with this siren discussion is that when you identify problem within the society, I don't think this is the best way to fix it. The Article 71 office holders, how many are they? From the presidency, judiciary, and the parliamentary, ministers, and all other names that they have included, how many are they compared to the general public, the 32 million people? So why must we enact a law that gives special duties or special privilege to these people again? We are in a 5th industrial revolution, and I think the best way is to creating virtual offices. Why must an MP drive all the way from wherever he is to a physical place called Parliament before he can transact business? So the issue they have to put on the table for discussion is how do we create virtual parliament? How do we create virtual offices? Must we always go to the court? Look, AI is doing most of the things that we are physically doing today. Thinking ahead, these are the areas that they should bring on board. But to fix a siren on your car, for you to know that you have a powerful...
Something happened. Hello, good morning, Bernard. Selassie here. There is a PPP happening that they are going to use the traffic system to catch road violations. So they are trying to get themselves out of a law they themselves passed. Remember that law that there's a PPP contract between the Ghana Police, the National Signal Bureau, and other law enforcement agencies, to use, including DVLA, to use traffic that they've installed to catch traffic violations on the road. This is what our MPs are trying to dodge. They themselves enacted the law, and they are trying to find a way out of that law. So that is it.
Bernard Avle. See, I don't even understand what this Andy Apieku man was talking about. We wake up children 6 years and above at 4:30 a.m. so that they can go to school. We sit in traffic to work and from work. Look, when the kids close from school around 4 p.m., they sit in traffic, so I get home at 6, 7 p.m. Now, on no adult, we have bought V8 for him. We fuel the V8. He doesn't buy fuel with his money. He doesn't pay electricity bills. He pays nothing. Today, he is complaining about tiredness from loss of time and sitting in traffic. Look, the MPs should not bring themselves. Look, we are already hot in the system. They should not bring themselves.
DJ, this thing annoys me mainly because the safety on our roads are going to be compromised. Hitherto, they drive recklessly, and then now they've been given the power, so as it is, to drive without speed limit. Can you imagine what will happen in the society? Can you imagine what will happen on our highways? Only God can tell.
Bernard, they are going to abuse it. You see, most of the problems we are going through in this country was caused by these MPs. Why? Because they just, then they just pass any law, allow the government to do whatever he wants, and here we are in debt. We can't pay our debts, and Ghana is broke. Who caused it? The primary people I will put the responsibility on is the parliamentarians. So if we don't have roads, we don't have good roads, and always Accra is congested and we are in traffic, we have to wake up at dawn to go to work because we cannot afford rooms in Accra. So we have to go outside Accra to get affordable rooms and leave home early, all because they'll be then they should also go through the same thing. If they know what we are going through, they will act better. They will do the right thing.
Bernard and Tim, my name is Joseph. You're asking why are we angry about this? The MPs are supposed to hold the other arms of government accountable, particularly the executive accountable. The mayors we are complaining about, they are the ones who are supposed to hold the executive accountable to ensure that this mess of unbearable traffic is dealt with. Unfortunately, they are not doing that, and they want to escape the consequences of their negligence. They should suffer this with us, please. Let us rise up against this. I call for us to go on a demonstration. We should go on a strike if they are not going to listen to us. Thank you.
So this is our nation, and the nation's interest is paramount. Let me record everything. I am prepared to defend it everywhere because the nation's interest is paramount. So sometimes you should give us concessions to go and do the national assignment. I have always followed the queue. But for today, I have to be in Parliament by 8 o'clock.
Some people say the concessions we give you all the time has been abused over.
No, but because and that is why I am showing you my card and saying that give me the concession. I am the right person.
No, because the argument is that you MPs and big men have been abusing this concession.
What do you mean by abuse? What do you mean by abuse? What do you mean by abuse?
Please don't be doing that. Please come.
What do you mean by abuse?
That's the notion out there.
What is the notion? What is the abuse?
Please.
What have I abused? I am saying that I have an urgent thing to do in the national interest.
It looks like everybody has an urgent thing to do in national interest.
Who has it again?
All the other drivers.
All the other drivers, higher than a parliamentarian. Well, can you say this in the Congress of US? There. Parliamentarians are supposed to be in the house by 8 o'clock. You are the same people who come. He is not even going anywhere. To every rule there is an exception. Give me your details. I can go to the IGP and I will drive you there. This is a national interest. I'm not for myself. And if you like, by 8 o'clock, go there and ask whether I'm not there. Fill me well. Because I'm serving the national interest. And to every rule, look at the national interest.